welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here today to dwindle down my YA TBR. So I think it was definitely a couple of weeks ago. I was on Tammy's Sprints, Tammy over at Tammy Tries to Read, and me, Tammy, and Ness in the comments were talking about if I should do this video and dwindle down my YA TBR. I have so many YA books that have just accumulated over the years because when I discovered BookTube, like that was what everybody was reading. And so I wanted to read it too. And a lot of them have accumulated there. I have a lot of YA authors that have accumulated there because I liked one book I read in 2015 and then I've been collecting them ever since. Some of them I am really excited to read. Some of them are just left there in the trenches to survive on my bookshelves and I don't actually want to read them. So what we're doing in this vlog is reading 3 YA books. I'll get to which ones they are, but we have to decide after I'm done them, do I love them so much, 5 stars, they stay on my shelves, something that I will want to keep here, at least for the time being. 2, do I love it but want it to get out into the world and get into the hands and therefore unhaul it for like a good purpose? 3, do I not like it, don't care about it, and will be unhauling it with or without a spiritual purpose? I also forgot to mention that this was heavily inspired by the dwindling down of physical TBR vlogs that are going around. Riley Marie, Gavin, Becca, Jade, those are the ones that I have seen so far. This is definitely me dwindling down a physical TBR, but just of YA. So I just want to mention and give credit where credit is due. But let's get into what I'm reading. The first book I read for this vlog was Everything All at Once by Katrina Leno. This follows a young girl who, upon the death of her aunt, who was a famous writer, receives 24 letters from said aunt that contain different prompts in order to like make her life feel better after her aunt's passing. Then I read War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi, and this takes place in Nigeria in 2172 in a sort of dystopian version of our future where the Nigerians and Biafrans have gone to war over resources in the land, and we follow 2 young girls who are byproducts of this war but come together as sisters. And then the last book I read was When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore. This follows 2 children, Miel and Sam, who try to stay away from this group of sisters named the Bonner sisters. They are seen as like the witches of the town, and unfortunately to Miel and Sam's detriment, they take an interest in them. So I will send you back to Kelsey 1 week ago so we can start this vlog and see my final thoughts for the books. My current hyper fixation meal is just a Caesar salad with chicken nuggets. I've had it like at least 4 days in a row right now for lunch. Hello, so I am trapped, as you can see. It's worse than a pet. I really can't move. I can't risk waking him up at all. So we're going to start my review for Everything All at Once here, and just imagine I have the book with me. We're going to talk about Everything All at Once. So this is a young adult contemporary, it seems so far, book by Katrina Leno. I really like Katrina Leno, so I bought this book knowing that I enjoy her writing. And this follows a young girl named Lottie whose Aunt Helen passed away due to breast cancer. Aunt Helen is a beloved woman, not just by her family, but also by the world, because she has created this young adult, middle grade book series, very akin to The Boy Who Lived. By the author that we shall not name. And in her will, her aunt has left her a bunch of letters. And I had thought originally in my March TBR, if you watch that, that it was like writing prompts, but it's not writing prompts. It's just prompts to like live her life to the fullest type of thing. So far, I think I'm on chapter 9. And like with the other Katrina Leno books I've read, I'm really enjoying the writing. I really like her writing style. It is at the same time very simple, but also very complex and very lyrical, and I'm really enjoying that, even though this is a more contemporary version of the writing I've read from Katrina Leno before. It's reminding me why I picked up Katrina Leno, why I enjoy her stories. It is a very difficult read at the same time because it's focusing on grief and focusing on a young girl who doesn't know how to handle her grief. So it's been very sad, but also like very introspective, and I'm really enjoying that. I didn't expect it to be this, not graphic, but very detailed in the experience of grief and experiencing the loss of someone you love. I think I'm going to read another 100 pages tonight, but because I'm reading this physically, it is taking me a lot longer, obviously, because I am caring for my little angel. I am working with one hand here. I can't really get up, so I might listen to an audiobook of something else. That's the update I have for now. Eventually I'm gonna have to get up because I have to cook supper. So we'll see, and I'll update you later. I'm currently at the gym right now, but I wanted to do an update on Everything All at Once by Katrina Leno because I did hit page 175, and I have a feeling that I'm going to finish it tonight, so I want to give like a mid-book update kind of, and I'm still really enjoying it. What we're doing is following our main character as she navigates these letters that her aunt wrote to her, as I've explained, and she's growing this like little relationship with a boy named Sam, who was a student of her Aunt Helen. So they're obviously both grieving in different ways, and what we're really watching is Lottie grieve, not secretly because I think it is obvious that she's grieving, but at least she's grieving outwardly less than she's grieving inwardly, and I think it's going to be an interesting discussion towards the end as we examine Lottie like confronting her grief in a real way. Her aunt was also, what the heck is, do I have a hive? I guess so. Anyways, ignore that. So we're at a couple of letters later and we find out that Lottie's aunt writing her last book, and that's something that I've been enjoying, is the interspersed pages of these books, these made-up books within the book. I really like that part. Nothing magical realism has happened yet, but I am expecting it because I've read from Katrina Leno before and I know that all her books have magical realism, and I have a feeling that immortality is going to come into play because there's a lot of talk about grieving, death, being afraid of dying. The book series that Helen has written is about two kids who take this Everlife serum and they last forever, so they are immortal kids basically. And then we have the last book written to someone with SW. Now, if I'm putting my thinking noggin on, the character that Lottie is developing a relationship with is named Sam, starts with an S. Won't surprise me if he's the SW in the books. And then we also have Lottie having to pick up a book about an immortal historical figure who went to capture something for immortality, something along those lines. And Sam was like, oh, what is that book? Suspicious behavior. I have a feeling he is immortal in some sort. So we're gonna see. That's my prediction. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but I am enjoying it. I really like Katrina Leno's writing, so I'm not surprised that I'm enjoying this book. I'm going to get back to working out and you'll see me later. Hello, so the day has flown by for me. My child is sitting right next to me. I didn't realize it was 5:30. That's crazy. I have just been reading all day, getting some stuff ready, obviously taking care of my child. I was just watching Joel from Fictional Fates Twitch stream, his productive reading sprints. It's kind of inspiring me a little bit to like maybe do Twitch. I don't know. It's an idea I have just because obviously the days both fly by but also feel long to me. So let's summarize my feelings of Everything All at Once by Katrina Leno. As I mentioned yesterday, I had a feeling I was going to finish it, and I did. This was a really beautiful book on grief and depression that honestly really surprised me. I expected to enjoy it because, like I said, I've read from Katrina Leno before and I've always like relatively enjoyed everything that I've read. I just didn't expect to enjoy this one as much as I did, especially because I thought it wasn't as magical realism-y as her other books. Katrina Leno's prose in this one was far simpler than her usual work, but I actually think it worked really well in this one because the book has a more contemporary lean. All the characters in this book, especially our main character Lottie, are all really easily likable. Like, it's nice to read a book about characters that care for one another and specifically notice when someone isn't doing well. This is where the parents chimed in, and I thought that that was really well done, that the parents care about Lottie and they notice that she's not doing well. There is a little sprinkle of magical realism, definitely not as heavy as Katrina Leno's other works that I've read, and I enjoy how it was used because it kind of further emphasizes the symbolism of mortality and grief with death and reflecting really on those themes. I was checking some other reviews, and like with others, I did find the romance in this to be unnecessary. Like, the book could have easily worked without this romance, could have worked better, I think, without this romance, but it didn't really deter me from my overall enjoyment. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. So this is a successful YA. Now, the point of this video is to dwindle down my YA TBR, which is a point. However, now I think I want to add a level where it's like, do I keep this because it needs to be on my shelves? Do I love it, but I give it away because I think it's really important in the hands of younger audiences? Do I give it away because I absolutely hate it? So these are my 3 options. I think I'm gonna go with number 2 because while I did really enjoy this, I don't see myself rereading this in the future. I think I want to reserve option 1 really for like 5-star books because I don't have a lot of space on my shelves. And 2, I actually think the discussions on grief and mortality were that important that I do want to put this out into the world. So this will be going off my shelves, but not for like a negative reason. And then while I've been listening to Fictional Fates, I started War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi. And this is a sci-fi novel that I'm really interested in. So it takes place 100 years from now in 2172. No, is that 100 years? Oh my God, I'm so dumb. Yes, it's 100 years from now. And climate change and nuclear disasters have pretty much rendered the world like useless. And the lucky ones have left the Earth's like desolate lands. And the people who remain are left with the aftermath of all of this like desolation. So a civil war breaks out between the Nigerians and the Biafrans over mineral-rich land, and it's wreaking havoc across the country. Battles are fought using flying deadly robots, and soldiers are outfitted with bionic limbs and artificial organs meant to protect them from the harsh radioactive environment. Survival has become the only way of life. In the technologically advanced camp that serves as a refuge for former child soldiers and girls orphaned by the war, Oni and her little sister Ife are largely protected from the fighting. But all that changes when the Nigerian soldiers intercept a signal from them. A bomb is dropped, their home is decimated, and Oni and Ife are ripped apart, forced onto opposite sides of the conflict. So right now I'm at that part of the book. It just happened. I am only like 25 pages in. The rest of the summary talks about 4 years later when the war is raging on and how they've become soldiers. So I think that that is going to be really interesting. I'm not there yet. I will definitely be getting to that likely today. The discussions I think this book will have will be really interesting for me. So like these discussions on climate change, on nuclear disaster, obviously, colonialization, the rise of essentially a capitalism of like trying to mine these like resources from poor countries, I think is really interesting. Something I did learn that I didn't know is that there was already a civil war within Nigeria and the Biafran state. I didn't know that that had actually happened. So this is also a reflection on that civil war, which I think could be really interesting. I plan to do a little bit more research on it so I can really grasp what Onyebuchi is trying to say with this one. But yeah, I'm listening to this on audio. I love the narrator. I think I have listened to her before, possibly with a Quick Yamezi book. Sorry, my camera coming off because I'm running out of storage, so I'm recording this on Snapchat. But basically, I just wanted to say that I'm really enjoying it. I'm listening to it on audio. It's really enjoyable. I plan to make bibimbap for supper tonight because I'm just like really craving it. So if I remember to film stuff, I will, but you know how it goes. Okay, bye. Hello, so I'm running out of time for this vlog. So I really need to either finish War Girls today, so read 300 pages, or do 50-50 of both books today. But I think I'm gonna try my best to read War Girls. So I just finished eating lunch. I think I'm going to lie down on the couch, feed my baby, listen to War Girls, and I'll update you once I have substantial things to say. Hello, so it is currently 12:30 at night. I'm only halfway through the book.
The woman was too stunned to speak.
I will probably read a bit more before I go to sleep because I do tend to go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. After I feed my baby, after I pump, it's just the time that I end up going to bed. But back to this book. I am now 4 years into the future at the end of what occurs in the synopsis. As a reminder, we had Onya and Iffy who are in this advanced camp. What I did not know is that it is only for girls, so only girls are in this camp, which I found to be really interesting because when I think it's Iffy gets kidnapped, she doesn't even know what the person who took her is. Like, he's a man, and she's like, I don't even know what that is, which I think could be a really interesting discussion, as more often than not in war, women and girls are affected the most and the most horrifically. And then Oni and Iffy are sort of forced apart. So Iffy thinks that Oni died, and Oni becomes more of a cyborg type of human than she looks here. 4 years later, like half her face is blown off and most of her body is like robotic structures. Oni has also become a more horrific type of soldier for the Biafra. She's very hell-bent on revenge. She's very like good at being a soldier, but obviously good at being a soldier means that you are a killer, and that is what Oni is. And Iffy instead has been taken to Nigeria, so she's on the other side of the civil war. She has become the most promising STEM student at the university in Nigeria, and she wants to escape to space. She doesn't want to be on Earth anymore. Both Oni and Iffy believe that they will never see the other again. I know that Iffy thinks Oni died. I can't remember if Oni thinks Iffy died, but we just got to a part in the book where Iffy is at a conference with, I think this is her boyfriend named Darren, and he is the like prince of this area, kind of. So he gets like a hollow screen surveillance image, the soldiers like manning positions and the mechs committing these atrocities. And if you realize that one of the mechs is Oni, her sister, they're not actually like sisters, they're like obviously from that same camp that we saw in the beginning of the book. I believe the sisters are going to want to come back together, but this is obviously a time of unrest. I just feel like personally we wouldn't have spent 100 pages in the beginning of the book to really establish their sisterhood and what they are to one another, to then have them not want to spend or not want to try to like re-come together. They like dream of peace basically, but they can't be together. Ify has just noticed that Oni is alive and that there is a possibility to reunite with her. So I'm going to, like I said, continue listening to this. I'm not the most captivated by this plot and I'm not the most captivated by this story, but the writing style is really easy and I'm enjoying listening to it. It's really easily understandable. I like the like political discussions that are happening, obviously, and I also enjoy that it's based on an actual civil war. Those are the elements of the story that I am enjoying the most, but I wouldn't say that I'm particularly enjoying the story overall. I will go back to listening to this and I will update you probably tomorrow. So quite a bit has happened since I last spoke to you. I'm almost done the book. I have about 100 or less pages left. I'm enjoying it, but it's definitely not a book that will leave a lasting impression on me. I think it's been fairly predictable what's going to happen with it. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad book. It just means that for myself, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about like just wanting to step away from YA. I think this works for younger readers, but just does not work for me as like a elder sci-fi reader, I guess. At this point in the plot, there has been a lot of revelations in relation to what has occurred in the war, and definitely Ify and Oni's places within this war. They have been not only physically placed on opposite sides of the war, but like emotionally and spiritually, they're also on opposite sides. There was something that Ify discovered in relation to Oni's place in her life, is the best way I could say that without getting into spoilers. And we are now reaching like the peak of this altercation and confrontation between the sisters. I think I'm just going to continue listening to this. I'm definitely going to finish it within the next like hour or so, but I don't see myself giving this more than like a 3 stars. Hello, so I want to do this quickly because I did finish War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi. I put him down for a nap like right over there, which is the music that you hear in the background of this. I hope it's not really loud. Anyways, let's talk about my overall feelings for the book, because I really do think that this was a great debut novel for Tochi Onyebuchi. Obviously at this point he is not a debut author anymore, but for a debut book I really think this is a solid beginning. I found the world building to be really well done because it feels really realistic to our future. So like I really believe that this could happen, like humanoid robot enhancements, stuff like that. Like I don't think that's so far-fetched from where we are heading. And it is also based on, as mentioned, the Nigerian Civil War, which I thought added more realism to it. It definitely taught me about that war. I didn't know about it. I definitely think it added to the more realistic nature of the book, especially when we dive into like war and political tactics. You can tell that Onyebuchi wrote this with a lot of knowledge. The author's note at the end of the book was really, really insightful as to his like inspirations and the amount of research he did. And it reflected well in the political conflict of the novel. I also really appreciated that he didn't shy away from like the more gruesome aspects of like battles and wars and how children are often used as soldiers in these scenarios. My complaint with the novel really lies in the overall pacing. I found there to be a lot of time skips that I felt were really unnecessary, and I think the events could have just happened like pretty consecutively and it wouldn't really have changed anything. Maybe it was to show how long the war endured, but I think something could have been done a bit better there. Additionally, I found the characters to be a bit surface level to my taste. I wish they just had a bit more depth, but is that due to the novel, due to Onyebuchi's writing, or is that due to just YA? And I'm finding that there's just this lack of intense depth that I need. So I gave this 3 stars. In regards to what I'm going to be doing with this book, I will be unhauling it, not because I didn't like it. Obviously a 3 star is still a good rating, but because I do want to see this in the hands of younger audiences, because I want to just push forth more diverse stories. The last book I plan to be reading for this vlog, because I want to at least get this book done tomorrow morning at the latest, is When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore. This is the first Macklemore I plan on reading just because I know that they have really, really, really good prose. And that's particularly what I enjoy with reading. So this follows two kids named Sam and Miel, and they are sort of like the weird kids of the town. Mostly because Miel has roses that grow from her wrists and she spilled out of the water tower when she was born. However, despite them being pretty odd, everybody stays away from the Bonner sisters. And these are four girls that are like rumored to be witches. And basically they are very intrigued or want the roses that grow from Miel's wrists. So Sam and Miel kind of have to work together to protect Miel from them. I'm going to start listening to this on audio while I feed my baby if he wakes. He's clearly waking up. So I'm going to listen to this on audio while I feed my child. He's waking up. And while I cook supper. So I will go attend to him. He's getting impatient. See you later. Hello, so I have gotten to page 65 in When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie Macklemore, and I wanted to update because this book is shorter than most books, therefore I need to update like a tad bit earlier than I would like. As expected, I am really enjoying the writing style. It was the number one thing that people talked about, especially back in the earlier booktube days, about Anna Marie Macklemore's writing. I don't believe that they have released a book in a while, which is probably why I haven't heard much about them recently. But this is a really interesting book because I don't feel like there is necessarily clear plot right now, which usually means I'm going to enjoy a book. I really like character-driven stories, and this is definitely character driven, definitely magical realism, which I always enjoy to read from because I like when it is a contemporary book with just something a little off. It doesn't always hit, but when it does, I do really enjoy it. Right now, where we are in regards to the plot, Sam and Miel have a very intimate relationship, which I wasn't really expecting. I know that this is YA, but it is quite sexual, which I think is really interesting because our main character Sam is a trans boy, and for 2016 I think this is really incredible for Anna Marie Macklemore to have such very explicit intimacy between the main characters, which I think is amazing and awesome, which I think is really cool on their part to have that representation. That is sort of like Sam's, I guess, internal struggle and what we're witnessing in the book so far, at least. And then Miel's story is really about how the Bonner sisters want to take the roses that she grows from her wrists because they believe that they will get their power back to like manipulate boys. And so I do feel like Sam and Miel's minor plots are going to come together to create that bigger plot, which has to do with the Bonner sisters. And I do think there's going to be some sort of discussion about like roles of women and men in society, just because the Bonner sisters have a very interesting need right now in the book in relation to boys, and then obviously Sam's gender identity, and then we also have Miel's love for Sam and how that is pushing forth the growth of these roses on her wrists. So all in all, I think this is really interesting. Does the plot make a lot of sense? No. Is the writing really beautiful and pulling me in? Yes. So we're going to continue this, and I definitely think I will be finishing this early tomorrow, which is great for me and the editing of this vlog, but I'm still going to try to read a bit more. So that's the vibe. I will see you tomorrow. So I've read about 100 pages this morning. Still really enjoying it. We're definitely getting into more of the themes of trans identity in here and how Sam feels about the way that they feel inside. What's interesting is that they are able to speak to another character in the book, I won't say who is a trans woman, and they are able to express how they feel. The reason that Sam is feeling down is because of what is occurring with Miel. Sam and Miel had a sort of confrontation or like a discussion slash lack of discussion about their feelings for one another, and they both sort of feel like the other is only with them because they feel bad for them. So Sam is obviously feeling bad because he thinks that Miel only likes him because he's the only person that like wasn't scared of her. As mentioned, she is the like weird girl, and then Miel feels exactly the same about Sam. Like Sam only likes her because she's the only only one that doesn't think he's weird for being a trans boy. Obviously, it's their own insecurities, so it is them feeling this way and thinking this way regardless. But the Bonner sisters are definitely using this to their advantage and using them to manipulate the other. So I am really enjoying this. Like I said, this is a very like soft novel. It's a character-driven novel. We're only really reading and discussing how these characters are feeling. The plot is really their relationship to one another more than anything else. I'm definitely thinking this is really beautiful. I'm enjoying it. It's a very easy listen. My kid is napping right now, so I'm going to continue listening to this while I do some dishes, and I'll come back to you probably when I'm done, because I have about 100 pages left, so I think I'm just gonna come back to you when I'm finished. Welcome to the end of the vlog. Let's talk about my final thoughts on When the Moon Was Ours by Anna-Marie McLemore. So I ended up giving this 4 stars, purely based on the lyricism of McLemore's writing style. If you want a book that feels like it was written by the Beatles, look no further. This feels like it was written by Paul McCartney. It's so lyrical. The metaphors and similes are so intentional, and they add to that overall magical feel of magical realism. I think that this novel has more of a nonsensical plot, so if you prefer a more like concrete plot, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it definitely worked for me. And that is mostly due to the fact that this was like a bildungsroman. Like, it followed Miel and Sam's personal growth throughout the story, which is something that I really, really love. And paired with the author's note at the end of the book, it was so beautiful, and it just explained McLemore's inspiration for Miel and Sam's relationship. That was really touching. There were some obviously like slight issues I had, because this wasn't like a 5-star read, with certain like plot points in the book that I just felt were really added there for plot progression over character decisions, which is what this book was like mostly focusing on. Like, some things were just weirdly done by characters that I just didn't feel like they would have done at the beginning of the book. But I think this novel was like good enough, and the writing was good enough, that I forgave it and gave it a 4 stars. In terms of what I'm going to be doing with this book, the representation in this book I think is really important. It is written by a non-binary Latinx author, follows a Latina main character who falls in love with a Italian Pakistani trans boy. I just think that this book needs to be out there. As much as I think this is the one that I would have most likely kept, I think this is a novel that in our current political climate, I feel bad keeping in my home. Like, I understand and know my own gender identity, and I understand and know that we should be kind to others with different gender identities than us. It feels wrong to keep it here. I think children need to read this. I think young adults need to be reading this. So this will also be leaving my home, but hopefully going into good hands. So let's summarize my overall thoughts on the books. I read Everything All at Once by Katrina Leno, which I gave a 4 stars. War Girls by Tochi Onibuchi, which I gave a 3.5 stars. Or was it a 3 stars? I think it was just a 3 stars. And then When the Moon Was Ours by Anna-Marie McLemore, which I gave a 4 stars. And all of these will be leaving my home and hopefully going into great hands. But that's it for this vlog. Please let me know down below if you've read any of these books. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know. Hopefully with the next installment of Dwindling Down My YA TBR, I want to be a bit more creative, like maybe pick the books out of a hat, maybe have some prompts down below that I can choose from. We could get creative, you and I. So let's do that. Leave a suggestion down below. And if you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. I have been saying this a lot, but with the current state of the world and the oligarchs that are taking over our social medias, they may not exist, as far as I'm concerned, any longer, just because I feel uncomfortable having them. But if they're still there, you can still follow them. And because it is the end of the vlog, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It does wonders for my channel, makes me feel really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, but I will see you next time. Okay, bye!